brief history of how we came to use taxpayer dollars on stadiums for billionaires. This is Charles Ebbets. By 1909, he had become the sole owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and he wanted to give them a new, modern home. Not like the wooden parks they had been playing in because they have a tendency to burn down, he decided to build a steel stadium. Ebbets took $750,000 of his own money and paid for this ballpark, Ebbets Field. 1912, they broke ground on the stadium by Prospect Park, and it would become the home of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Now, in 1951, the commissioner of baseball, this guy Ford Frick, basically said, hey, we bring all this money into these cities, we create jobs, we're doing these cities a favor by existing, they should reciprocate. This is when the cost of building these stadiums really started shifting from the sports franchise to the city that hosts the franchise. So the Dodgers had been playing at Ebbets Field since 1913, and by the 1950s, Walter O'Malley was the owner of the team. The Dodgers were one of the most profitable teams in baseball, and O'Malley wanted to build a new stadium for his team at the Atlantic Yards in Brooklyn. But he wanted the city to pay for it, and he began threatening to move the team to LA if they didn't. At this time, moving cities wasn't really a thing. Until 1953, no Major League Baseball team had moved. The first were the Boston Braves in '53, who had wanted to leave Boston because they were having trouble building a fan base and they couldn't fill their stadium. Plus, Milwaukee gave them a stadium using public money. In '54, the St. Louis Browns became the Baltimore Orioles, and '55, the Philly Athletics became the Kansas City Athletics. But in New York, officials were unmoved by the Dodgers' threats. As the mayor said, we don't intend to allow ourselves to be blackjacked into helping either the Dodgers or the Giants financially. The New York Giants also wanted a new stadium. One congressman said, let the Dodgers move to Los Angeles if the alternative is to succumb to an arrogant demand to spend the taxpayers' money to build a stadium for them in Brooklyn. Plus, the city had already spent $110,000 studying the proposed site of the new stadium. And a new stadium probably would have meant extensive use of eminent domain to clear the space. This is exactly what happened 50 years later when they started working on the Barclays Center, which is exactly where they had proposed putting a field for the Dodgers. The new Dodger Stadium in LA would also negatively impact residents, which is where they've been since 1958. But this would mark a new era where professional sports teams would threaten to pull out of cities unless they got the funding they wanted for the new stadium, which of course coincides with a new era of public funding for many of our privately controlled stadiums.